Okay, so this is going to sound stupid before it sounds like anything else. I used to talk on my phone. Not like texting. I mean, I'd sit on the edge of my bed after he'd gone to sleep, put my phone up close to my mouth and just say things, out loud, things I could never say to his face. I'd hit record on the voice memo app and whisper stuff like, I think I'm in love with my roommate and I don't know what to do with that. And then I'd sit there in the dark feeling like the biggest idiot on the planet, and I'd save it anyway. I had, I don't know, maybe 40 of these things. Some were 30 seconds. One was 11 minutes, recording the night he brought a date home, and I lay in my room listening to them laugh through the wall until I couldn't take it anymore and just started talking to my phone like it was a person who could actually hear me. His name is August. Everyone calls him Gus except me. I don't know why, I just never did. We'd been living together for a year and 4 months at that point. Split a two-bedroom above a laundromat, the kind where the dryers hum through the floor at 11 at night and you stop noticing after a while. He worked at a bike shop, came home smelling like rubber and metal, left his shoes in the doorway no matter how many times I complained about it. Normal stuff, roommate stuff. Except I wasn't being normal about any of it. I was cataloging it. The way he hummed while he made eggs, the way he'd flop onto my bed uninvited to complain about his day, feet on my pillow, completely unaware that I was rearranging my entire nervous system just to seem casual about it. So here's the thing that actually happened, and I promise you I did not see it coming, not even a little. We had this ancient Bluetooth speaker in the kitchen, one of those chunky ones from like 2016, and it would connect to whatever phone was closest whether you wanted it to or not. Total garbage engineering. One Saturday I'm at the grocery store and August is home alone doing dishes, and apparently he says play some music out loud like an idiot to no one, not realizing his phone had already synced. Except it wasn't his phone that answered. It was mine, connected from my room 30 feet away because I'd left it on my desk with the volume up from the night before. And instead of music, it played the last thing sitting in my recently played queue. Me, my own voice, saying his name. I didn't know any of this happened until I got home 20 minutes later with 2 bags of groceries and found him sitting on the kitchen floor with his back against the cabinets, my phone in his hand, absolutely still. He didn't yell, that's the part I wasn't ready for. I'd played out 100 versions of him finding out, anger, disgust, that flat polite voice people use when they're about to ask you to move out, and none of those versions had him just sitting on the floor, looking up at me like he'd been hit by something he couldn't name. How long, he said, not even really a question, more like he was testing whether his voice worked. I put the groceries down so slow like moving fast might make it more real. How long is it? Don't. He said it quietly, not mean, just tired almost. I heard 4 of them, Milo, 4. I wasn't trying to, I swear to God I wasn't trying to, it just started playing and I couldn't figure out how to stop it and then I just sat there. I remember the exact stupid thought I had, which was, please don't let it have been the one from November. It was the one from November. He set the phone down on the floor, screen up like it was something that might go off again if handled wrong. You said, and then he stopped, started over. You said you didn't think you'd ever stop feeling like this and that you were scared it was going to ruin everything and that you hoped I never found out because you didn't want to lose the apartment or his voice cracked on nothing in particular, or me. I didn't say anything, there wasn't anything to say that wouldn't just be confirming it louder. How long, he asked again. Since March, I said, my own voice sounded far away to me. Maybe February, I don't actually know when it started, I just know when I noticed. He nodded slowly like he was doing math in his head that didn't add up right. Then he got up off the floor and I actually flinched because I thought, I don't know what I thought, that he was going to leave the room, get his stuff, something final. Instead he just stood there in the middle of the kitchen, arms crossed, looking at me with an expression I couldn't read at all, which was somehow worse than if I could have. I need to go for a walk, he said. That was it. He grabbed his jacket off the hook and left. Didn't slam the door, didn't say anything else, just left me standing there next to 2 grocery bags with ice cream slowly turning to soup, feeling like I'd swallowed glass. He was gone for almost 2 hours. I spent that time doing the worst possible thing, which is imagining every single scenario at once. He's calling his sister to ask if he can crash at her place tonight. He's texting our landlord about breaking the lease. He's just walking in circles trying to figure out how to be nice about kicking me out. I put the groceries away with hands that wouldn't stop shaking, and I sat on my bed, not his, mine, because I didn't feel like I was allowed near his side of the apartment anymore, and I just waited. When I heard his key in the door, my stomach actually dropped, like physically, like on a roller coaster. He came and stood in my doorway, didn't come in, just stood there with his hands jammed in his jacket pockets, looking at me in a way that felt like he was trying to decide something. "Can I sit down?" he said. I nodded because I genuinely could not have produced words. He sat on the very edge of my bed, far enough away that it wasn't weird, close enough that I could smell the cold air still clinging to his jacket. For a long time neither of us said anything. I remember staring really hard at a scuff mark on my wall like it was the most interesting thing I'd ever seen. "I walked to the park," he finally said. "Sat on that bench by the fountain, the one that's always wet even when it hasn't rained. I wasn't thinking about anything, really. I was just trying to feel normal for a second." "Did it work?" I asked, mostly just to say something. "No," he let out a breath that was almost a laugh but not quite. "It didn't work at all." I finally looked at him. "Gus, you don't have to, I get it. I get if this is weird now. I get if you want me to find another place I can start looking this week. I don't want to make things." "Milo," he said my name sharp enough that it actually stopped me. "Can you just stop talking for 1 second, please?" I stopped. He rubbed his hand over his face, and when he spoke again his voice had gone smaller, less certain than I'd ever heard it. "I sat on that bench trying to be upset, like really trying, because that's what you're supposed to be, right, when you find out your roommate's been," he gestured vaguely like the words wouldn't come out straight, recording secret feelings about you for months. "You're supposed to feel weird or freaked out or whatever," and I kept trying to access that feeling and it just wasn't there. I didn't dare breathe. "What was there instead," he said, and his eyes came up to meet mine, "was that I listened to your voice saying all that stuff and somewhere around the second recording I wasn't uncomfortable anymore. I was just sad, because you sounded so alone in it, like you'd been carrying something by yourself for months in a place where I was literally in the next room the entire time." My throat did something complicated. "I didn't want you to have to deal with it." "Why not?" "Because," I actually laughed this awful wet laugh, "because you're straight, Gus, or I thought you were. You brought Danielle here in June. You talk about girls from the shop all the time. I wasn't about to hand you something you didn't ask for and make you feel obligated to be weird about it." He was quiet for a second. Then he said, very carefully, like each word cost him something, "Danielle and I broke up in July because I couldn't stop comparing every single thing about her to you." I heard the words, I understood the words individually. I did not, for a solid 5 seconds, understand them as a sentence that meant something. "What?" I said. "I'm not saying it right." He pressed his palms against his eyes for a second, frustrated with himself in a way that felt very real, very unrehearsed. "I've never said this out loud before, not to anyone, so bear with me, okay? I've had feelings about you for a while now. Longer than I want to admit, honestly, because I kept telling myself it was just, I don't know, closeness, roommate stuff. And every time it got too big to explain away as roommate stuff, I'd just push it back down. Because you never gave me any sign it was anything other than that on your end. And I figured if I was wrong about it, I'd lose the best friend I've had in years, so I just didn't." I stared at him. I genuinely could not form words for what felt like a full minute. "You're serious?" I finally said. "I just heard you confess to a voice memo that you've been in love with me since maybe February," he said, and something in his voice cracked open into a small, disbelieving laugh. "And you think I'm joking right now?" "I don't know what I think right now. I think my brain actually stopped working like 10 minutes ago." That got an actual laugh out of him, short and surprised, like it snuck out before he could stop it. And something about that sound, him laughing here in my room after everything, made the fear in my chest loosen just slightly. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Yeah." "The November one, what happened that night? You sounded really bad in that one." I hadn't expected him to bring that specific one back up, and it landed like a small gut punch. "You brought Danielle here for the first time. I heard you guys through the wall, laughing mostly. And I don't know, I felt so stupid. Lying there wanting something I had zero right to want, listening to you be happy with someone else in the next room. So I just talked into my phone instead of doing anything actually productive with the feeling." He looked down at his hands for a second. "I remember that night. She left around midnight and I came out to get water and your door was shut and the light was off and I remember standing in the hallway for way too long for no reason I could explain to myself. I think some part of me knew something was going on with you and I didn't have language for it." "That's insane," I said. "That's actually insane that we were both just right there the whole time." "I know." Neither of us said anything for a bit after that. The apartment made its usual sounds, the fridge cycling on, someone's music thudding faintly through the floor from downstairs, and it felt, weirdly, like the most normal 10 seconds of silence I'd ever experienced, even though nothing about the situation was normal at all. "So what happens now?" I said, because someone had to say it and it clearly wasn't going to be him first. He thought about that for a long moment, longer than felt comfortable, honestly, and I started spiraling a little, wondering if he was regretting the last 5 minutes already. "Honestly," he said, "I don't know, I've never done this, any of this. I don't mean the gay thing, I mean, I don't know how you go from finding out your best friend's been quietly in love with you for 8 months to like figuring out what that means for a Tuesday. There's no manual for this part." "There's not," I agreed. "But I know I don't want you to move out." He said it fast, like it was important to get out before he lost his nerve. "And I know I don't want to pretend this afternoon didn't happen. Those are the only two things I'm sure of right now." I felt something in my chest that I can only describe as relief so big it almost hurt. "Okay," I said, "I can work with those two things." He smiled a little, small and lopsided, still a bit stunned looking. "Can I ask you something else?" "Go for it." "Can I hear the rest of them, the recordings, not like right now, but eventually? I think I want to hear all of it, what you didn't get to say out loud." That request took me completely off guard and I felt my face go hot. "Gus, some of they're not exactly flattering to how put together I am. There's one where I just say your name for like 40 seconds because I couldn't think of anything else." "I know," he said, and something in the way he said it made it clear he'd already heard that one. "I want to hear it anyway, all of it. I think I owe you that, since apparently you've been carrying the whole thing alone." I didn't know what to do with how that made me feel, so I just nodded, because if I'd tried to speak right then it probably would have come out wrong. "He didn't kiss me that day. I want to say that clearly because it would be easy to tell the story like it wrapped up neat right there on the edge of my bed, but it didn't. What happened instead was smaller and honestly better. He reached over slow, a little unsure, like he was checking whether it was allowed, and put his hand over mine on the comforter. Just that. Just his hand over mine, both of us staring straight ahead at nothing in particular, neither of us saying anything for a long, long time. "I'm really glad the speaker's garbage," he said eventually out of nowhere, and I nearly choked on my own laugh. "That's the last thing I expected you to say right now. I'm serious, if that thing worked properly none of this would happen. We'd probably be sitting here in 6 months. You moving out over some excuse, me pretending I don't know why I'm sad about it. That stupid speaker did us a favor." "I'm never getting rid of it," I said, "ever. It's staying in that kitchen until it dies of natural causes." He laughed properly then, the real one, the one I'd spent 8 months quietly falling apart over every time I heard it through a wall. Except this time I wasn't on the other side of anything. This time it was right next to me, his hand still over mine, and for the first time in longer than I could remember, I didn't feel like I was carrying something by myself. The next few weeks were not some smooth fairy tale, if I'm being honest with you. There was a lot of awkwardness. A lot of both of us hovering in doorways not sure if a hug was appropriate, a lot of loaded silences over dishes. One night about 2 weeks in, I finally played him the rest of the recordings, sitting on the kitchen floor of all places, right where he'd been sitting that first day, like we needed to close some kind of loop. He didn't say much while he listened. Just sat with his knees pulled up, listening to 8 months of me quietly falling apart in the dark. And when the last one ended, the one from that very morning actually recorded before any of this happened, just a tired little "I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this," he reached over and pulled me into him, and I just kind of fell apart properly for the first time out loud, to an actual person instead of a phone. "You don't have to keep doing it alone anymore," he said into my hair, "any of it." We got together for real about 3 weeks after the speaker thing, which feels both impossibly fast and unbearably slow depending on which day you ask me. The first kiss happened in the kitchen, obviously right by the counter, in the middle of a completely unrelated argument about whose turn it was to buy dish soap, which is such a stupid, unglamorous way for it to happen that it's somehow exactly right for us. It's been 8 months now since that Saturday with the groceries turning to soup on the counter. We still live in the same apartment. Different arrangement, obviously. His shoes are still in the doorway, I still complain about it. He still hums while he makes eggs, except now sometimes I hum along badly, off-key, and he just looks at me like I've lost my mind, which, fair. I still have the recordings, by the way, all 40-something of them. We listen to one every once in a while, usually late at night, usually when one of us is feeling nostalgic or a little sad about something unrelated, just to remember how close we came to never having any of this at all. Sometimes he laughs at how dramatic I sound. Sometimes he goes quiet and just holds my hand a little tighter. And every now and then, when it's just the two of us in that kitchen and that garbage old Bluetooth speaker crackles on because someone forgot to turn their phone volume down, we both just look at each other and smile, because we know exactly what that stupid little machine did for us, even if it never had any idea.